Hello, everyone. Welcome to this series where I am literally not interviewing, but I'm having a conversation with the clients, with my beautiful clients that I've worked with extensively over, 10 sessions. And this is all about getting to know my clients, just talking about healing in general, and also the journey of like what it is to heal, what it is to work with me, what they're up to, all this kind of stuff. So I just want to introduce Abigail. She is from Arizona. Well, she's living currently in Arizona and she's living like a very organic lifestyle, which I love. She'll tell you a bit about that, maybe if she wants to share. And yeah, so Abigail, like, just tell us a little bit about you. I know you're just whatever you want to share.
Well, thanks so much for having me. And um, it's just so beautiful how we met. And then, I think I've done 15 sessions with you, but they were all spread out. And like
Oh.
who I am now at the end of the 15 sessions, um, and who I was when I met you is so different. But I live in Sedona, Arizona. I came here about a year ago, just following my intuition. And I am a nurse and have worked in the healthcare industry for a while, but I don't really resonate with Western medicine anymore. And so healing just looks so different and is more like what you do than pills and you know, all of that. But I guess a little bit about me too is that I've just been on kind of like a healing spiritual journey for about 8 or 9 years now. When I had an accident and I broke my arm and I was the patient for the first time. And so just slowly I've been like deepening my studies with yoga and nutrition and just like connecting to the earth and the spirit guides and all of that and following my dreams, my intuition. And so it's been a slow unfolding, but it's been beautiful.
Yeah, and like I just love the story of like how we even met because when I started working with you, I literally thought you found me through my events, but you actually didn't. So can you just tell
Yeah.
everyone about how we met?
So a year about in 2020, in October of 2023, I decided to leave my marriage and I drove across the country from New Jersey to Idaho. And I knew I was going to be working at my friend's integrative clinic for a month. And like that was the only plan I had. And so I was on a hike one day, um, like just having arrived in Idaho and just feeling all of this fear, feeling so overwhelmed with like leaving the marriage, all this shame, this guilt. And I literally was in the parking lot and afraid to walk up this trail. And it was so silly. And I prayed and I was like, universe, like, please send me a friend that I can go on hikes with so that I feel safe and like I feel like, and I had like a story that I was like gonna like run into a bear or a moose or like I don't know. And then this woman, literally, as I'm like sending this prayer up, this woman comes walking by and she introduces herself and she um knew the woman that I was like working at her clinic. And so we went for a hike and we chatted and we exchanged numbers and I became friends with her. And I was just in correspondence with her. Um, and, you know, my life took me from Idaho to Sedona, where I live now. And then, um, so I had left the marriage and I, you know, was kind of feeling uncertain. And then in February of 2024, I found out that my partner, my husband at the time, had been having an affair. And that just like took, like, I just crumbled. I just cracked. And I was reaching out to Penny, the woman I met on the hike. And I was like, and she does bio tuning, which is like an incredible healing modality as well. And so I was reaching out to her about the affair because I was like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I don't know how to get through this. I need help. And she sent a recording or like a podcast or an event of yours where you were just like talking about mother father dynamics and relationships, and whatever you said was like what I needed to hear, and I was like, I need to work with that woman. And so I booked a call with you, and I was like, I don't have the money, this isn't gonna work, and like I can't do this, but like I need to work with you. And like I said, I manifested 15 beautiful sessions throughout 2024. And I think just to like my intuition like led me to the people that I've like needed to work with. And um because I met Penny and I trusted Penny even though I knew her for like 5 minutes, like, and had that rapport with her, but like it led me to you. And like from our first call, we were chatting about our cats, and like I was like, oh yeah, this is what, but I didn't really understand what you were talking about, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I also thought that we were going to be working on the affair and like on the marriage, but as we continued to work together, I think the most powerful work we did was around like sexual trauma that I had as a child, and like unpacking that and clearing that out of my body. But that like I came to you because of the affair. But like it's just so much deeper than you even know when you start.
I just love, first of all, shout out to Penny because, I've met Penny as well through the events. Yeah, and you've worked with Penny. And I think it's so beautiful that she was able to, even though she was sharing about her work, she also shared this. And she was literally sent by the universe, like the way that everything was orchestrated, is insane. Like it always surprises me how it just, that story is like a perfect
I
depiction
just got
of like,
chills. Yeah.
yeah, I know. Like it's like of you just going on a hike, you needed a friend and Penny came along. Obviously, you were in alignment with something. Penny was in alignment with something. You came together and you from there, you were able to like talk and whatever. And then from there, you like saw my talk that you resonated with. And even though when we had that call, again, it was very intuitive. Like you didn't know exactly what we'd be working on, even though we had like and it's quite really hard, to explain to people what they're working on because when people come to me, they think they want to sort out one aspect of their life, which is kind of going on like an affair or a divorce or a breakup or something like that. But really, it's like the deeper stuff that's just going on within, which is manifesting in many different ways. And I think you also, I've always said this to you, like you're just such a powerful manifester because you kind of like just want like yeah, I've always felt that about you. So when you were just like I don't have the money or even after the 5 sessions you're like I just don't have the money like to continue and I was like you
You'll
might be
figure it
surprised. Yeah, I was like I think you'll get the money, Abigail. Like if you really want to work with me, I think that's what I said to you. I think you'll find it because I had so much faith in just your manifesting abilities and how maybe traditionally you might not have as much money in the bank account as somebody else or whatever, but your ability to just make things happen and like pull things out of thin air and like, I still like can't wait for you to fully see like the magnitude of that because I really see that in you as well.
Well, I think that's also part of like your gift and part of like what you offer to people in healing is like, I think part of my story has been like, I'm a victim. I need someone to take care of me. Like, I need a handout. I need, like, because like there's support, like, calling in support, like Penny and you is one thing, but then also like believing in yourself that you have the resources within yourself to take care of yourself and your needs, I think is what I have been learning and what I am learning. But like to have you say that to me, like, I think you'll figure it out. Like, you got this. Like, you don't know how powerful you are. Like, if you really want it, you'll figure it out. Like, that is more, has been more medicine and like more powerful to hear that from you than like for you to be like, oh, well, like let's just like do a free session, like because poor you, because I think that has been my like my shadow, or just the thing that I'm trying to work out of as well, is like thinking that I can't do it on my own. And then I have that kind of like when that story comes up, I'm like, oh no, remember that one time where like I literally had no money and then out of nowhere I did, and I chose to invest in myself in these sessions again. Like, oh, I did that once, like I can certainly do it again. Like, um, but just that has been so powerful in working with you, like with all the other things that we do, but like that isn't even what we're doing in the session, like that's like when we're texting, or like right before or right after. um so I just think that's so powerful to like have someone see you as powerful, and then you're like, well, if they see me like that, like I must be I must be.
And I really do. Like, I don't, it wasn't me. I don't do any kind of like lip service or flattering or anything like that. Like, it would just come across really wrong because I feel like I just can't be fake in that way. And I really do see this real power, like this very divine feminine power coming from you. And I've also, what you mentioned about you are powerful, but you want somebody to take care of you. And I have definitely felt that in my life because, I think both of our childhoods, even though they were very different, I have felt that in my childhood. Like I've had to be very independent really quickly. And I really am independent and I'm really capable of like manifesting and taking care of myself. But I just always, that little girl inside of me, my inner child, is like, no, but I'm gonna get myself into a chaos or like something like that so somebody else can take care of me because it's the needs of the inner child. And I think, it's because something happened to you when you were younger. And if you could just share, because obviously we've done a lot of stuff around sexual trauma and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and like I guess I'll share, but also like I'm sharing from a place of like I want others to feel and like know what's possible for them, as opposed to like sharing like this is my victim story, like I'm a victim, feel bad for me, because I think that that's still, because it's so fresh and still so new. I am like really discerning with who I share with, because I can still share from that like I'm a victim vibration, but because of how impactful, and like also I feel like sharing the full story with everyone will make it more understandable about like the amount of work and like yeah. So I as soon as I left my marriage and moved to Idaho, I remembered childhood assault, but I didn't like my body told me that I was assaulted as a child, and I didn't know who did it. I didn't know like anything. I just like knew this was true. And so I like spiraled into like really fear and just like being afraid of everything and everyone. I like stopped talking to my family because I was like, I don't know who did it. I also feel like people are lying. I feel like my parents didn't keep me safe. So I was just in a really, really dark place. And during that time, I was using and talking to my husband at the time, like my husband, my first husband, um, who I'm now divorced from, but like I was talking to him because it was so intimate. Like it was my pussy that was talking to me. It was like it was these parts of me that I felt like only he knew. And so like I was really relying on him for support. And then um I found out about the affair, and I felt like I said, the affair was like really great for me to just feel all this chaos in my body. And during that time, I remembered like who assaulted me, but it wasn't until like our healing sessions that things started coming up and like becoming more clear. And so, like, I think that our bodies hold on to things until it's safe for us to fully remember them. And you also like don't need to remember to heal, but like I guess I'm trying to say like it all kind of like unfolded and like in a very organic, like natural way, but like layer by layer. And I think that's another reason why too we did so many sessions like spread out over a year because there was only so much I could take at a time and like a lot that I had to integrate. And so I don't remember. I know that we did like a lot of work around my yoni and like just feeling all of the sexual trauma that my yoni has experienced. But then like we were doing work there and then I don't know why, but we started going to my butthole, which I'm now lovingly calling my portal because that's where I realized like where my childhood trauma has occurred. And um like I didn't know that up until like a few months ago. And so like we journeyed there and like went there because that's where I was feeling so much tension and so much pressure and just like with you guiding me, I was able to like release and let go and also then like mourn all of that and accept like that it happened because I think that when I first remembered in November of 2023, it felt true, but it also felt like I couldn't digest it. Like it was like, I can't think about this, but this I know is true. Whereas now I feel like I have accepted it. And I'm also like just so much more compassionate with myself, so much more gentle with myself. And also like I tune into my portal, my butthole, um, because I have a tendency to like hold and clench there. And so, like, just remembering to breathe and to like send love there. I don't know if any of this makes sense, but like, it's been a slow journey, but the trauma that happened in childhood was like repeated sexual assault by a priest in my church. So it was someone that I trusted. And then I think also like unpacking my parents and like he was friends with my father. He came over for dinner and um like that's part of the trauma too in feeling not protected and not heard and like feeling like I shared with them what was happening but they didn't hear me like that's all there too. And even just talking to you now, I'm like, I need to breathe into my
Yeah. And just like, just to rewind a bit from an ethical standpoint, because I know, yeah, just disclaimer, because I know there's like a lot of stuff around other healers telling people that they've been through assault, but it wasn't me who told you that you've been through assault, and it
Oh,
wasn't anyone else. You actually remembered yourself. And another disclaimer to for a healer, because if someone comes to you and says, I've remembered that this has happened to me, and obviously we always want to work with people with integrity and like make sure that they're in like we don't want to ever take advantage of anyone. And of course, you're like just such a together person. And I knew straight away, like, you're so intuitive. You are like so in touch with your body. You're a grounded person. So I was like, okay, yes, this is a great person to really work with. And I felt really confident because I could see on the other side and just deep within who you truly are and how this was just yeah, it was like on my from my standpoint, I felt that because you're so intuitive and because you're so in tune with your body, this was creating this kind of barrier and it was creating this cloud because it was like there was just so much around it and to tap into it and start unpacking it, especially like by yourself or even with the wrong person where you didn't feel safe with, would have actually been more traumatic. So I'm so thankful that the universe matched us up together because I know that there's been cases where people have like been re-traumatized by things or it's just gone like a little bit whatever like not how they've expected to go. And I think that with you were just because of the work that you do, which we're gonna also talk about at the end, the healing work that you do, you are so in tune with your body and throughout it all you are able to still maintain your center and maintain that groundedness. And that is, I think, a great sign to anyone that this person is safe to work with, just from like a healing perspective. And then the other thing is like we did a lot of stuff on your yoni, we did a lot of stuff on the areas that you had been assaulted, but the main bulk of it was all around safety, which is obviously root chakra, and just not feeling safe, not feeling looked after, not feeling heard, not being not having the words as a child at that time to really express, which is like throat chakra stuff. And then we did so much work on your stomach, which is your power, like your power had been like taken away. And I know that we had this really intense session of having it went back to a memory that you just felt like as a child. It was just like everything was closing in on you, and it wasn't actually anything to do with the assault. It was just like feeling very disorientated in your life, and it had created like this portal. It had created this like massive portal in your solar plexus, which is what it was like really sucking your power. Can we like talk a little bit about that? Because I
Well,
know you're smiling because you're remembering it.
I
Yeah.
know. Well, and so I guess I don't know what people listening know, but like during these sessions, like I'm laying down and like my eyes are closed and like I have like comfort items around me, like but like it's like I'm like laying in bed, like and I'm like my eyes are closed and like we are just journeying within my body and like all of this too has been like you'll be like, okay, like we're gonna go back to a memory, like where do you want to go? And I'll be like, oh, I need to go here. And like that's how I remembered the trauma happening in my bum because my bum like one day was like, we need to go here. And so like that's kind of like what we're talking about. And so like one day, and so like that's a beautiful way to remember childhood trauma, like like the body was ready for me to remember it. And like that's another thing that I love about working with you is like I was guiding this. And like sometimes you'd be like, oh, like I'm feeling something over here. And I'm like, yeah, but right now we need to go here.
Mm.
And like that's also like me practicing taking my power back and me using my voice and me um feeling safe in my body because I'm like yeah Aswaria, like I know there's stuff going on in my eyes right now but we need to go to my stomach like
Yeah.
immediately. And so when we went to my stomach this particular day and like I said I have like a very different relationship with my body and like symptoms, but I have been 2024 I was like burping and gassing and like belching like you like an 8-year-old boy who like just learned how to burp like it
Yeah.
was like insane. But I just trusted that my body was letting go of things and knew what it was doing and I didn't need to be worried or like change my diet. I knew it wasn't like the food I was eating. I knew it was like the thoughts I was having and the energies that were coming out or things that I was having trouble digesting, like, the affair or this trauma or blah, blah, blah. And so that's kind of like my relationship with my body, but that like my stomach was like really out of whack all of 2024. And so we went to my stomach and I felt like I was like I felt like there was like a hole, like a portal that I was like literally being sucked into, like almost like Harry Potter Voldemort things. Like I felt my soul being sucked in. And I was like, Aswaria, I need you to hold me and like to ground me because I don't have power right now. I am going down to this hole and like I feel like so depressed. I feel I'm losing myself. I feel like I'm getting turned like I felt like in other times when we would journey to the body, it was like I was just witnessing and observing and then like would have an emotion sometimes, but like was able to like feel things or like let things pass by just like connecting to the breath. But this time it felt like I literally was like losing myself. I felt like I was being sucked in. And so we were like doing it together and I was like I need you to hold me and pull me back and like that once we close that, I like after our session, like, we're both sitting up and looking at each other. I was like, I feel like a different person. Like, I don't know what that was, and I don't know where we've gone. Also, like, these are all sober. Like, we're not taking drugs. Like,
Yeah, we're not taking
we're just like,
psychedelics.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
just like, hey, good morning. Like, lay down, close your eyes, and um, just calling back like all these parts of myself. And like 2024, because of all of the things I've uncovered, like I would say in some sense was the hardest year that I've ever, had. But then because of then doing these things and closing portals and calling back parts of myself that I had left in other places and had left in different situations, like I have felt the most confident, the most energy, the most like joy and like laughter about things that are pretty heavy. And I feel like all of that comes from like kind of journeying into these parts of yourself. And like that particular portal in the stomach was a big one.
Yeah, and I love that about you. I love that obviously you are like a comedian as well. You do comedy skits, but I love that you're able to laugh and that we're able to laugh because that's also how I approach healing, like it can be really intense and we feel the intensity and we allow our bodies to process it on every level, but then we just laugh about it because, that's life. Like we can't get sucked into it forever and we have to feel it and then we have to let go. And just for like people who don't they're thinking like, how does this healing session work? We're working with all three layers of the like our being. So our physical body, our intelligent body always tells us, right, what's going on. But over time, through programming, through having to live in the matrix, we start losing the signals, we start overriding the signals. And then our emotional body is also always communicating with us and saying, hey, I'm feeling this emotion. And then again, we numb that with Netflix or alcohol or sex or whatever it is. And then if we can't access the physical body and the emotional body, we have no connection with our energy body. And everything starts off as energy and then it becomes emotion and then it comes into the physical. So by always like going back into a memory and trying to pinpoint in that memory, which we are working with higher intelligence as well. We're not choosing a memory. We talk about something, then we co-create with the universe or higher intelligence, our guides, our spirit guides, whatever you want to call it. And then we go back to that memory, we pinpoint all the emotions that we feel, and our body tells us where we're storing that emotion, and then we clear the energy and we clear the energy with like our 12th chakra, which is always connected to source and is golden light. We bring that in and we clear that energy through. So just a little overview. It's really complicated if you explain it like this, but just. So at that time with Abigail, it was like because all of these things had happened, this portal, it was like a dark hole that was just sucking your power and it was making you feel, I think we were touching on, feeling a bit hopeless or depressed or whatever. And it was literally this, yeah, it was just this thing that was getting bigger and bigger, and you weren't able to reinstate your power within your solar plexus. And in facing that, you had to kind of like look fear in the eye. You had to really, and it doesn't have to take a lifetime. It can literally take 5 minutes, but those 5 minutes are just so intense. And like being in safety with another person, we did it together. So being in safety with another person, it helps you trust yourself. And then once that portal was closed and we're done with it, and by universal law, when you notice something and you say you're done with it, or you do the process to be done with it, it cannot come back again because, without your permission. And we actually give permission to losing our power along the way. So once you close that portal, that's it. Like you feel completely different. And obviously it has to work through the physical. It takes about like 72 hours. But then it kind of we're just like on to the next thing, like and we did so much around safety, around being heard. You had a lot of stuff with because we think like sexual trauma is always going to be about the trauma, but there's things that lead up to it, and then there's things that lead after it, like betrayal or not being seen or not being heard, things like that.
Yeah, and I think that um like one of the things I was gonna say is that like this like work also I think because of the trauma or also just like the family system that I grew up in, being an intuitive child, I shut all of that down because it like wasn't welcome or I don't know why. And so like when we started doing this, I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like this is wild. But like that also has been so healing in that now I do trust my intuitive gifts way more. And like you said before too, like I I would never talk about any of this with a therapist. Like I would not like it became clear to me even though I like thought it was crazy. I was like I'm either going to do this in this way or I'm not going to do anything. Like I'm not going to go to therapy. I'm not going to like I don't even know what else you would do about like because when I met you like I remembered being assaulted as a child and I knew who it was by, but that's all I remembered. So like what are you even going to talk about? Like what are you even like what is there even to do? But like because I hadn't journeyed into my body like and I wasn't ready to receive that information, it would have been more traumatic to like think about it. And like, so when I first started working with you, I was like so skeptical. I was still doing it, but like over time, I began to trust in the process and trust myself and also um, like feel the difference. Like, there's just no, like, until you close a portal in your stomach that you've had your whole life, like there's just like no other way to describe it. And I like I know that it's not just me. Like I will see people in town in Sedona and like it will be like 2 weeks or 3 weeks and they will literally stop me and they'll be like, you look like a different person. Like you something has shifted, something has changed. And I'm like, oh, I know. Like I've been really busy. Like and so like also getting that feedback and validation from friends and family and loved ones, like this, I don't know. I just to me before like when I first met you, this was like kind of crazy, like to be like you'd be like, what do you see? Like, and I'd be like, I see like a cross and a church like in my yoni. And like my rational mind wanted to be like, that's crazy. That doesn't make sense. But like then the way you talk about it and like guide you through it or guided me through it, like it made total sense. And then I would feel a physical shift. Like I would feel a physical difference from before and after. And so I think that has just helped me to like continue to trust and then go deeper and deeper. And like, I do think that like some of these like superficial things are there because if you can clear that, then you're able to go deeper and clear like the more heavy things. And then like the heavy things like weren't really even that heavy. Like, yeah, childhood assault from a priest is like that's heavy. Like that feels icky. But like the way we did it like I was laughing about like my butthole. Like I would be crying and I'd be like, I would share all of the emotions and you would hold space for me and validate it, but then like it would be 3 minutes or maybe I don't even know, like two. And then we would go somewhere else and like I would be laughing and crying at the same time, but it wasn't as like icky as you might think, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and that's so important to remember because I have worked with other people that have like gone through sexual trauma, and the just like I don't even know what happens. It's like we are, even though I'm orchestrating the session, these gifts that have come to me, it came with kind of a terms and conditions, and those terms and conditions are that I was to always help the other person reclaim their power and remember their power, and not to ever make it make them think that I was the one healing them, right? Because I don't believe in that. That's not my principle. And it was like, so I always allow, I wanted you to take control. I wanted you to tell me, I'm holding space. I know what's going on. I can feel everything going on in my body. And that's why I say, hey, are you sure it's clear? Like, we need to go here. Like, we can't end the session without looking at this as well. And I'm there like a mirror, like a clear mirror. But you did it. Like, it's you. The power is in with you, and it's you reclaiming that power and reliving things doesn't have to be. Even I'm in awe of the fact that when we go into such deep stuff, it's like it's heavy for like 3 minutes and then it's done. But we're not remembering, we're not like going through the specifics of what happens, even though it comes up, it's like I'm not saying, Abigail, what exactly happened. I'm just saying what's your body saying, what are you feeling? And then you kind of just share anyway what happened. Without being attached to the story, because that's also a really important point of this work. Like, we don't get attached to the story of it. Like, that's just the mental faculty just making sense of it. It's always going back into the body, energy, emotions. And then once it's clear, it's clear. And yeah, it's just amazing to see you as well, like just something that maybe you were so fearful of going towards in the beginning. Like in the beginning of a session, you'll be like, oh, like there'll be hesitation to look at it, but then you'll look at it and you'll work through it, and then you're going somewhere else. And with that, it's like your confidence was increasing, your power was increasing. You were just like just a force of nature. And yeah, that was just so amazing to witness.
Thank you. And I think though that like that's another beautiful thing about like working with you is um like I don't know, like if you're like afraid of the dark, right? Like you like want your friend to come with you like the first few times, but then you realize like you can do it on your own and it doesn't it doesn't need to be scary, but that like I I am now at a point where I realize not looking at it isn't going to make it go away. like like and so yes, we've cleared all these things, but then there's always just like another layer deeper. And so now I feel like I am able to go deeper with myself. And I literally started twerking in 2024. And I didn't know, like when I first started twerking, I didn't understand like all of the trauma that had happened in that area. But now I twerk because it's like therapy and like I twerk because like I'm moving energy, but it's like so much more fun than talking to a therapist. And like it's also a way for me to if I feel a lot of tension or if I feel a lot of anxiety or just like pain in my first and second chakra, I'll twerk instead of like having a glass of wine or crying or like I twerk and I cry. But I think that what I'm trying to say is because I've built so much confidence in doing this with you and like safety and knowing that like even if it does get intense, it's going to be intense for a minute or two and it's not going to be much more than that. Like now I feel like I can do it on my own. Um and it that's like a gift that keeps on giving, and then you're not the healer. Like it's I'm like, oh no, I did this for myself.
Yeah, and then you can take that with you just now, like in the present moment, because even when things get intense, it's like just feel it, just sit with it and clear it. There's so much. I think you need to clear the energy. Like you can't just feel and leave it. You have to clear it. You have to clear it in the right way. And that's what I want for people. Like once I'm so happy that you're able to do it by yourself.
Right.
And even sometimes you still voice note me and you're like, da da da, like this going on. And I'm just like, yeah, but in my head, I'm like, yeah, but you can clear it. Like, I'm not even like, if it's like another chapter of something big, I would say come back to me. But I think this chapter, you're able to like work through and clear and all of that kind of stuff because we've done it so many times together. Um, and another thing that we worked on is sacred sexuality and just the yoni, like just getting, because after what had happened to you, it was almost like that connection had been distorted and you weren't truly hearing your yoni, which is always speaking to you. So can you talk a little bit about the work that we've both done, just reconnecting and how it was before and how it is now?
Yeah, I think um like I think whereas like my butt and my portal
Yeah.
that like that trauma feels very much like that was done to me. But with my yoni, I think because I had sexual assault there as well, um, like it was though there was so many instances where I was betraying my yoni. Like there was instances where my mind was saying yes to intimacy and to partners and to situations, but my yoni was saying no. And that like so my yoni had a lot of things to say to me. Um, I think I had like a yeast infection for like 4 straight months.
Mhm.
And um, there was a lot of anger, like that my yoni had to express that was towards partners and people who took advantage of me, but then also myself. Like I took advantage of myself because I was so disconnected from her and so I didn't understand like what she I didn't understand that she had like her own her own voice, her own consciousness, her own like she needs to be in the conversation about intimacy. Like it's not just like when your mind wants it. And so I think like we did a lot of work with my yoni before we went um to my bum and I feel like that now is so like we're like on the same team now. Whereas like before we were like fighting with each other.
Mhm.
And I was like, I just don't understand you. Like you're speaking a different language. Like I felt like before we were like bickering, like bickering couple. And like now we're like actually like on the same team. And like she understands that like I have her best interest at heart and she knows that like she has my best interest at heart. And I would say I would be like before we worked together, I thought I had like an understanding of her, but I wasn't actually listening.
Mhm.
Um and I think yeah, that like now we're just on the same team and that's just so much more fun.
Yeah, and I think like that's the same with anything that's going on in anyone's body when it feels like there's symptoms and we can't quite understand. And it's just like such a classic reflection of how yeah, like how you say it, we're just not on the same team as parts of our body because our body's saying, hey, like, I want something different. You're not listening. And then you're just like, oh, and then you start hating that part. You start saying, I have a chronic illness or like, this is going on. And like, you start pushing away different parts of yourself. And in reconnecting and really listening. And I know it's complicated. Life is complicated. Like even with the intimacy thing, it's not always going to be like everything is a yes and everything is a no. And sometimes it's yes for 5 minutes and then it's a no. And we have another person involved with like, especially with intimacy, and we can't be. So I'm not saying it's like clear cut, but I think when we have so much disassociation or disconnection with parts of our body, we start manifesting that in the physical world, right? Like in this scenario with the yoni, we could like manifest partners who are not really connected to us in that way, or they're not really listening to us, or we're not really on the same vibe. We might be attracted to each other, we might be sexually, like that might be going on, but whatever the disconnection we have with the part of our body will start mirroring in the physical world. And we don't like I'm a like I really want to just when we are so in tune with ourselves, we can actually just tweak it in the energy realm or the emotional realm. When it starts coming into physical situations and physical body, that means we have to listen because that's like the last kind of call to action and before it becomes like a chronic problem in some way.
Yeah. And I think the other part with my yoni now that's different is um I forget what I was gonna say. I that like oh my God, I don't even remember. She's like,
What were we talking about? The
yeah.
the yoni and being on the same page, same team.
I don't remember. Um, I'm sorry.
That's
That like, yeah, maybe it'll come back, maybe it won't. Oh, because I think I had it, and then you said what you were saying about like if you tweak it on the energy
mm,
feel like first, like and when it shows up physically, like that's like kind of like pay attention. Like that just I love that as like your baseline or like just like that way of thinking about your body and also about like your energy and your emotional because then you have so much power like and like you just know that you just need to clear something like something just needs to be it's not so overwhelming you know.
exactly. That's just how I approach life now. Like I'm just like this person is just however annoying it is, I still get annoyed. I'm not a perfect, even though I do this work. Like if someone annoys me or irritates me, I'm like, okay, there's something going on within me which I need to clear on all three levels: physical, emotion, that's Zeus just playing, physical, emotional, and energetic, right? And how you clear. Most people can just clear on the emotional realm because whatever emotion keeps persisting, you find it in your body. And you obviously, I think you should work with somebody like me or someone else who does something like this because it's really important to be able to build that safety with somebody and be seen for your pain without going into the story and also your power as well. But yeah, once you do the emotions and the physical body and all that, then you'll be so fine-tuned to energy. Like it's almost like just like like your intuition just telling you, hey, there's something going on before it becomes emotional. And once we do that, we have so much sovereignty, we have so much power over ourselves. And we literally, this is the way we clean up ourselves, our relationships, like the world. This is what I believe.
And now I remember what I was going to say is that like I think for my yoni the sexual trauma there was so much chaos going on because I also like didn't want to accept it. Like I didn't want to accept all of the trauma that like and I didn't want to accept all of the times I had betrayed myself and like I just was not accepting and I think that was a part of a lot of the belching and burping. But as soon as I accepted it gradually over time, I think then I was able to come into a relationship with my yoni because I finally accepted like what actually was as opposed to like what I wanted. And that just felt so beautiful because like, I have I have an idea of like how I would have loved to like all of my sexual encounters to have go and like I have this story about like how I want my childhood to have looked and like but once I accepted actually what happened my yoni and I decided like well now we get to choose well now we can decide to be hand in hand like have now because of everything that we have endured and gone through we can choose how we want the rest of our life to look and the rest of our intimacy and the rest of our like pleasure to look and so I think that was like kind of a huge piece in like accepting what had happened but because I had so many stored away memories and so many repressed emotions like I needed to like gradually feel it all. And so um I do trust that like everything happens on some sort of divine timeline and like perfectly and that, you know, I needed to feel anger for 4 months before I could like feel the acceptance and then get into like a better relationship with her.
Yeah, and I know that it was a lot about, again, when we want to do clear up sacred sexuality or the yoni, it's not always about the yoni. It actually came back to self-love and
Mhm.
how he's just playing with a tin foil thing. That's why it's so noisy. It came back to self-love and loving yourself. And I know like I felt there was moments where when we did talk about sexuality and being intimate with a person, I kind of had to be like, just hold off for like a month, write down what love means to you because you can't tell another person not to have sex, right? But I just wanted to be, I was just like, look, it's like a raw time right now. We're clearing this up. Just write down what love looks like to you so you know who has access to your energy, who gets allowed to be around this Abigail 2.0, like the one that you've worked so hard on. And it's not to be like really prudish or you can enjoy sex, but it just always has to come back to the way you love yourself, and everybody loves themselves differently, and love means something different to everyone, but as long as you and your body are on board, then of course life is messy, we're not perfect, but I think that's the missing piece. Like as long as you are on board with something, then it should be fine.
Right.
Depending where you are in your healing journey.
Well, because I feel like what you're talking about, like when during that time I was like, I don't want what happened to have happened. Like I was like, I'm mad that this happened and I'm mad like about all these things. And like I don't want this to be the truth. And
Mm.
it was like, well, but it is the truth. And so like, what are you gonna do with it from here? And like I'm like, but I wish that I had like, the girl next door like meets the love of her life, like, and they lose their virginity and like they like live happily ever after and they have tantric sex. Like I like wanted like that was what I wanted, but like that's not what happened. And so like I was like just like mad. But like I was mad, my yoni was mad, like everyone was mad. And it was just like creating all of this like meh. And like I think there was a part of me that was like, well, if I just had a partner, like that was like perfect, like then all of this would be like fine. Like and it's like, well, no. like and so I think it just took me a while to like accept. But then what feels empowering to me is like, okay, that happened, but now you get to choose the love story, the intimacy story, or like how you interact with people with your yoni. And like that feels like so much. I don't know if I would have gotten to that point if I hadn't experienced everything else that like I wouldn't have chosen to occur.
Oh, yeah. And I feel like you're just so different now to when I met you. And obviously, you've done so much work on yourself. We've done a lot of work. And what do you think is different too? Because I think we met like a year ago. Who were
Mm-hmm.
you then and who are you now?
I was like in I I was so depressed. I was confused. I was angry, bitter, and just like a shell of a human. Like I was like a shell of a person. Um, and now I think I'm just more like I know that this is not complete, but that like I feel more secure in myself and like who I am. I also feel more confident and just like so much lighter in my body. Um, a lot of the work we did was like clearing out other people from my body, like clearing out other people's energy. And I like remember one session I like voice noted you after, and I was like, I didn't even know who I was because I've had this person's energy in my body for as long as I can remember. And I didn't even know that it was here. So, like, I think I'm just, I'm the most myself that I've ever been, but I'm also like enjoying that, like getting to know like what that means and like who I am. And I also, I'm like the most sexy I've ever been. I'm the most like playful and like turned on. Like I said, I twerk and like I love it. And um so like I'm just like the most like juicy and like playful. Um, which you wouldn't think, I don't know, like I could be closed off. I could be like like I am also just proud of myself now that I know like my whole story and have uncovered so much. I'm like, wow, I'm like the strongest person I know. Like I'm like I'm able to say that with a laugh because it's like I don't know, I guess I'm just falling in love with myself.
I like love that. And I'm so proud of you for just like coming through this and I don't know, like there's just so much to unfold. Like I remember towards the end you were just like saying things and I was like, Abigail, you're really good. Don't worry, like because radiance doesn't lie and like the evidence of how you show up, like your radiance and whatever's going on in the physical world, that will always catch up because I always feel like what we're living is 3 months behind where our energy is. And and sometimes when we're resetting ourselves and we're going back to authenticity, our lives can look kind of like chaotic, like it's like, well, why am I living here or whatever? It's because life is taking you back to like a reset point and you're working from the ground up again, but in a way that's truly meaningful, like that's truly authentic. So you might not have all the things, but your energy, your radiance, your smile, all those things, your eyes, like all those things just don't lie in a person. So when you look at someone, you'll say, okay, they're like really good. And when a person is like that, which you are, of course, you're going to attract like just so much better experiences and so much all the things that you were, not resistant to, but all the stuff that you were carrying was kind of in the way of like just receiving.
So much carrying and so much like disconnection from my body. And I mean, I understand, but like that's why I'm like, this is the only way I would have gotten connected to my body because you like made it safe and playful and like I felt confident going to my butthole and like seeing what was in there, you know?
A
And
load of shite.
yeah,
That we need
like
to get rid of. Yeah.
but that like yeah, I'm a totally different person and just so much more fun.
Yeah, well, that was always you. And you also have like you wrote a book about, you're going to explain it, but then you rewrote it and rebranded it as well, didn't you? So just tell us a little bit about your book.
So I wrote a book in and published it in 2023, and that was like when my marriage was, falling apart. But my intention was to write a journal to go along with the book so that you have like a companion. And the book is all about how you heal yourself, and it's like specifically for women who have had a sexual trauma and have are just like looking for answers and want ways to naturally heal themselves. Um, because my body has endured sexual trauma in my 20s from other people. And so I wrote this book like from that point of view. And then I left my marriage. And like I said, I remembered this earlier, deeper, more dramatic sexual trauma that happened when I was a child. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh, I have this book that I wrote literally for people like me going through this exact thing. And so I read my book like for like I read my book for that I had written apparently for me, and then I wrote the journal like as I went through it. And so I know that this book works. It's from my lived experience and also just like timelines like bendy that of course I didn't write the journal, a year before when I said I wanted to do it. Of course I wrote it like when I needed it and it was there for me. And um so this like I believe in it. I've done all of the practices. The book is kind of like a how-to. So there's different journal prompts and reflection question, a lot of um, activities for you to do, like feng shui, like just bringing things into your life. So it's not just meant to be read, it's meant to be practiced and incorporated into your life. So it's a book and a journal, and it's meant to empower you.
Amazing. And what's that book called as
It's
well?
called Chatter to Shine. you put yourself together again, kind of like Humpty Dumpty. And it's on Amazon. And yeah, like I just am, I know, like from my own lived experience, I know that we're so much more magnetic and powerful and strong than we think. And that like you get to choose how you move through life. And my hope is that like it can be supportive to people just like it was supportive to me.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And you also have a course as well. Could you tell us?
Yeah, so the course is um so I'm a certified coach from this program called Vital Mind Reset, and it is a, a 44-day reset of the body through diet. And like you might think it's a diet, but it's really not. It's like a spiritual journey in that you're learning how to tune into your body again and listen to your symptoms and see them as like messages from your subconscious, messages from your soul, and just rewire the way you look at health and wellness. And so that is a program that I offer for people to go individually through with me. And then I also offer it as a group because I do think it's really powerful to, share something and be witnessed in whatever you're going through. And like, so the program, there's a diet component and it's pretty restrictive, and that people can complain and like kick about like, oh, I can't believe I can't have coffee for 44 days or like whatever, but it's never about the coffee. Like it's never about the food. Like the food is just there to help you go deeper, because when we kind of cut ourselves off from these things that we're so used to having, and when we're just focusing on, there's also meditations and a lot of kundalini, and it's really just clearing your channel so that you can tune into who you are, like your real inner self, your real essence. And so when you cut out like all of that noise, all of that becomes so much louder, and you realize like, oh, my stomach cramps are here to tell me something. Like what can what can I learn, or how can I like support? And it's just trusting that your body knows how to heal.
Oh, I love that. So we'll put the link to your book and your journal down below and your course. And that way you can find out more about what Abigail offers. And also, if you want to explore working with me, we'll also put down a link to have a call. And yeah, like it's just been so, I was going to say any final thoughts, but before that, it's just so amazing when you get to like work with someone that feels like a friend, because we are friends now, and like it's just yeah, it just feels it's just such great work. And I think a lot of people I work with are healers as well. So we get to go super deep, and yeah, like it's just been you've been so willing. I'm trying to remember like the first time we worked together, and it was just so different because I was like you were like I've kind of done stuff with the body before, and I was like yeah, okay, but let's just and you was totally different, and right now you're so radiant, and thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey in that way. Thank you for being part of mine as well. And yeah, just love the universe for orchestrating. And do you have any final thoughts that you want to share?
Um,
Just about anything.
yeah, I guess I would share like if anyone's feeling like interested or curious, like just trust that curiosity, trust. And like if you're not feeling interested or curious, like that's great. Like and follow the things that you are feeling curious about, because like we really do know. Like you really do know what is going to serve you and what modalities are going to help. I um and that like you really have all of the answers within you, but that like it is it is confronting, and like it does like it is challenging, but it doesn't need to be like awful, like it doesn't. And like on the other side is so much more like love and I know it sounds like cliche, but there's so much more love and light. Like
I know, but it's true.
And like, but it does take some, it takes you showing up and like needing to look at your shit, like actually look at it and like then let it go. Like you need to choose to let it go and also accept that you are full of shit. And
I
like
know. Yeah.
that, yeah, I don't know. And that's kind of, I guess, my final two words, and that I'm just so grateful to have been connected to you and that like have you be my support and like guide in doing this, but also like I'm so grateful for it because there are a lot of healers who are like, oh, well, like I can only like you can only access this with me. And like I am so grateful that you are not that you're grounded and that you know that this you're like a guide, you're a support, and that like it's coming from the person that they're doing it. Because that is an invaluable gift. And like you said, right? Like if we all were doing this, imagine how incredible the world would be.
Exactly. And yeah, I think I don't want to start another religion. I feel like religion is very like you have to go through me to get
Yeah,
the
yeah,
source,
yeah.
and that was yeah, I think that's the way we're really breaking out of that. I think in each of us finding our sovereignty, each of us finding our gifts, we actually find out that there is no competition. There is no any like we're just all bringing what we have our gifts to the table and it all just fits together and orchestrates together and there's just so much abundance. But for us to get there, we need to clear out all this programming. So that's the catch 22. So, yeah, well, anyway, I'm sure people would love to connect with you. So we'll put all that down below and thank you for being here with me.
Thank you.